Hey there, Rebus here. I've been checking around the various online game stores to try and keep abreast of current and more popular games than I usually tend to cover. I somehow managed to end up buying 2017 Star Wars Battlefront 2, so another timely review from me. Star Wars Battlefront has been going for a while. The first game came out in 2004 and was the start of my love affair with the franchise. The game featured a scale of combat rarely seen before, at least by my eyes. I experienced the game on the first Xbox, I think. I never got to experience the full weight of the 64-player online mode for PC players. However, the couch versus one body was still mind-blowing for me at the time. The game recreated famous locations from the Star Wars franchise and allowed the player to take on the role of nameless troopers from the prequels and original series, with vehicles to boot. The combat was largely a control node conquest dealy, with victory being handed to the team with the most control points, or else maintain control of all of the map's points for 20 seconds. The game was a blast to play in both single player or else with a buddy in the multiplayer modes. 2005's Battlefront 2 was an improvement. It brought the opportunity to play as the various heroes from the Star Wars universe. It introduced space battles and a more focused single player story charting the history of the 501st Legion. One of the best campaigns I can ever remember having played in any game, with more locations, more vehicles, and super awesome versus modes, and not a loot box in sight. Over the years, there were many ill-fated attempts at making another game in the Battlefront model, with various derivative mobile games, but nothing really to live up to the success of Battlefront 2. As in the Star Wars universe, so it will be in the real world. The stagnation of the franchise created opportunities for shadowy figures to enact dark schemes and pursue their own evil agenda. In 2013, EA bought the license to produce Star Wars games. Merely a month later, the game was teased at an EA Expo. In 2015, a shadow truly descended across the Force, and Battlefront was released. Minus space combat, only one era of the Star Wars universe, minus any sort of meaningful campaign. Patches and DLC resolved some of these issues, but in my opinion were too little and too late. Releasing a game bereft of so many features that had been added to the franchise in previous iterations will always irk me. It's like the devs didn't even play the previous games. The only way I can sort of justify it making any sense at all is if it's literally just an experiment to determine how little content it is possible to get away with whilst charging 50 quid. As such, when Battlefront 2 came out with all of the loot boxes in tow, I was skeptical, to the extent that I was utterly unprepared to pay anything like full price for the game. I felt the discount price I got on EA's Battlefront 1 was too high, and that was something like 20 quid. I was unable to countenance paying anything similar for Battlefront 2. When I saw the game on sale for 4 quid, which is a low-income goth, it rang out to me as a potentially fair price for a car crash cash grab of a game, with its included gambling mechanics, so I decided to take the plunge. And you know what? I've had a blast with it. The single-player story, though short, kept my interest throughout. The multiplayer feels good, being the only thing there was to enjoy from the first of the newer Battlefront games. One would expect this. Though for fear of repeating myself, the main thing that has blown me away is being able to finally enjoy a Battlefront campaign for the first time in over a decade. This has been a treat. The space combat makes a more substantial return, though for me feels slightly stodgy, with multiplayer and single player working well for me and doing a solid job at instigating fairly substantial bouts of raging nostalgia. I missed the local conquest mode, which allowed 2 players to effectively play a little 4x against one another, with combat being resolved by space battles and ground battles depending on the presence of defensive fleets. The annoyance of the gated loot box content is minimal for me, owing to one very substantial factor: the price. I got Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the price of a mobile game. Less than 4 quid. Morally, I can kind of accept a low-cost game grafting me for a few dollars. Once you're paying like 25 quid or 50 at launch, the whole trying to scum you out of extra cash, I think, becomes more objectionable. So in short, if you were a Battlefront fan burned by the previous EA Battlefront product, I can formally vouch for this game, assuming you can grab it at the price I did. In fact, if all of these loot box games were dirt cheap or more appropriately free, I'd find them a lot less egregious. But for the love of God, don't encourage EA by buying this game at their normal listing price, even if it is reduced to 25 quid now. Instead, wait for another sale. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to sponsor a goth, there's a Patreon or a PayPal. Otherwise, some sort of more conventional YouTube interaction also helps plenty. And be well.